Asterisk the abandoned amusement park asterisk. Some places are abandoned for a reason, but curiosity always seems to get the better of us. When the sun sets and the shadows grow longer, that's when things that should have stayed forgotten come back to haunt us. Email credit. This story was shared with us by Jacob M., who once dared to explore an abandoned amusement park, not knowing what he was walking into. If you've ever encountered something mysterious or terrifying, share your story with us. Send it to the email in the description or the About section of our channel. It was late one summer evening when my friends and I decided to visit the old, abandoned amusement park just outside the city. We'd heard the rumors, strange noises, flickering lights, and eerie shadows seen at night. But like every group of adventurous friends, we thought those were just stories meant to scare us. We drove there in 2 cars, joking and laughing as we entered the gates. The rusted sign that once proclaimed Wonderland Amusement Park was barely legible, hanging by one single chain. The entrance was open, no security, no guard, just an empty lot. We parked near the old Ferris wheel, its once colorful cabins now faded and swaying slightly in the breeze. The entire park was silent, too silent. The only sound was the crunching of our boots on the gravel paths. We explored for a while, walking past rotting ticket booths, broken down rides, and long-forgotten food stalls. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. As we approached the haunted house ride, something fell off. The front doors of the ride were wide open. We all exchanged uneasy glances. Should we go in? One of my friends asked. We nodded, despite the growing sense of dread creeping over us. It was too late to back out now. We entered the house, the interior even darker than outside. A faint buzzing noise filled the air, but we couldn't see anything. We continued walking, our flashlights revealing cobwebs and broken props. That's when we heard it, a faint sound, like a child's laughter echoing through the halls. "Did you hear that?" my friend whispered, her voice trembling. We all stood still, straining our ears. There was again, but this time it was closer, the sound of little footsteps running across the floor. Panic set in, but curiosity pushed us forward. We followed the sounds, winding through tight hallways until we came across a room. The door was cracked open, and when we pushed it, it creaked loudly, like it had been shut for decades. Inside, we saw something we couldn't explain. A figure, a girl, standing in the middle of the room. Her back was to us, her hair long and unkempt. Her clothes were tattered, and she seemed completely still. Her hand was stretched out in front of her, as if beckoning us forward. Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She didn't respond. Instead, her body jerked unnaturally, her head snapping around to face us. Her eyes were empty, dark voids. We froze, unable to move as she slowly began to walk toward us. The air grew cold, the lights flickering wildly. My friends and I ran, not even thinking about where we were going. We could hear her footsteps behind us, getting closer, but we didn't dare look back. We finally burst out of the house and didn't stop running until we reached the cars. We sped out of the park, the image of that girl's haunting face forever etched into our minds. To this day, none of us ever returned to that park. Every now and then, I hear a strange noise when I'm walking alone at night, and I can't shake the feeling that something is watching me. And I wonder, did we really escape, or did something follow us back? I's conclusion: some places should remain untouched. Sometimes, curiosity can lead us to things we are not prepared for. And sometimes, the ghosts of the past don't stay in the past. They're still out there, waiting. End of story. The Abandoned Park, a true horror story asterisk. Sometimes, the things we think are abandoned aren't quite as empty as they seem. Imagine a place that was once full of joy and laughter, now left in silence, with forgotten paths leading nowhere. This is the story of a park that had been abandoned for years, and the horrors one man discovered when he ventured there alone. Asterisk credit asterisk. This story was sent to us by Jonathan T., a local from the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. He still doesn't visit parks alone anymore. I've always had a fascination with abandoned places, whether it's an old house, a hospital, or a forgotten amusement park. There's something eerie and intriguing about exploring places left to decay. This particular story, however, still haunts me to this day. It was in the summer of 2018 when I came across the abandoned park just outside my town. I had heard rumors about it from some locals, but no one ever dared to go near it. People spoke of strange noises at night, flickering lights, and even sightings of shadowy figures, but I didn't believe any of it. After all, this was an old, forgotten park. What could possibly go wrong? I decided to visit it one late afternoon. The park was tucked away on the outskirts, far from any main roads. The closer I got, the more I could see the dilapidated state of it. Rusted swings hung from broken chains. Slides were covered in graffiti, and the fountains that once had water running through them were now dry and cracked. But what struck me the most was the silence. Not a single sound. It was as if the entire park was frozen in time. I made my way through the overgrown paths, my footsteps crunching in the dry grass. I had my camera with me, ready to take some pictures for a blog post I planned to write about urban exploration. As I walked deeper into the park, I started to feel an odd chill in the air, though it was still summer. I came across an old wooden bench near a large, crumbling statue. It looked like the perfect spot for a picture, so I sat down for a moment to catch my breath. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind or perhaps my imagination. But the whisper came again, clearer this time, almost like someone was right behind me, breathing heavily into my ear. I turned quickly, but no one was there, just the empty park. I laughed nervously to myself, tried to brush it off as a trick of the wind, but deep down, something felt wrong. My heart began to race as I stood up to leave, but as I made my way back toward the entrance, I heard footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate, as if someone was following me just out of sight. I turned around, expecting to see someone there. But again, there was nothing, no one in sight, just the rustling of the leaves. My mind started to race. Was someone watching me? Or was I just losing my mind? I quickened my pace, but the footsteps behind me didn't stop. They were getting closer now, too close for comfort. I broke into a run, the sound of my shoes hitting the ground echoing in the dead silence. But no matter how fast I ran, those footsteps never stopped. Finally, I reached the entrance of the park, gasping for air. I didn't stop until I was far down the road, and by then, I couldn't hear the footsteps anymore. That night, as I lay in bed, I kept hearing the sound of footsteps, faint but unmistakable, as if someone was walking around my room, circling me. I didn't sleep a wink that night. It's been a few years since I visited that park, but every time I pass by, I feel that same unease. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still hear those footsteps following me, even now. And to this day, I can't explain what I experienced that day, but I know one thing for sure. There's something in that abandoned park, something that doesn't want to be found. Asterisk call to action asterisk. If you ever had a creepy or unexplained experience like this, don't hesitate to share your story with us. Send it to our email listed in the description or our About section. Who knows? Your story might be featured in our next video. And The Forgotten Playground, a creepy story. Sometimes, the most innocent places are the ones that hide the darkest secrets. An abandoned playground that once echoed with the laughter of children now lies silent, its swings swaying on their own in the wind. Little did I know, the playground held more than just broken slides and rusted swings. It held something far darker. Asterisk credit asterisk. This story was sent by Sarah W., who has lived near the playground her entire life. She wishes to remain anonymous for reasons we understand all too well. It was a cold evening in late autumn when I decided to take a walk through the old playground near my childhood home. I hadn't been there in years, but something about the place always intrigued me. It had been abandoned long ago after a series of accidents, but I had heard strange things about it. Some said it was cursed. Others claimed to have seen shadows moving within the old, rusted equipment. But I never believed the stories. I thought it was just the typical rumors that small towns are full of. The playground was surrounded by an overgrown fence, which seemed even taller than I remembered. The gate creaked as I pushed it open, its rusty hinges protesting with each movement. I stepped inside and immediately felt a strange chill in the air, even though the temperature hadn't dropped yet. The once bright and colorful slides and swings were now faded and cracked, the paint peeling off in layers. The merry-go-round, which once spun with the laughter of children, was now still and broken. Yet, as I looked around, I could feel an eerie presence watching me, as if the park itself was alive, waiting for something or someone. I walked deeper into the playground, the leaves crunching under my boots, the only sound in the otherwise silent park. I came across an old bench that faced a large, empty swing set. The swings moved gently in the wind, as if someone had just left them behind. But there was no one else here. I sat down on the bench, pulled out my phone to take a few pictures, and for a moment, I felt completely alone. Then I heard it, a faint sound, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. At first, I thought it was just the rustling of the leaves. But then it came again, clearer this time. A soft, childlike giggle. My heart skipped a beat. I looked around, but there was no one, just a silent, abandoned playground. Suddenly, the swing closest to me creaked and moved, though there was no wind strong enough to make it sway like that. My breath caught in my throat. I stood up quickly, looking around the playground in panic. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the park, near the old slide, a figure was standing. It was small, almost childlike in appearance, but its outline was too blurry to make out clearly. I froze in place, unable to move or speak. The figure didn't move, it just stood there, staring at me with what seemed like dark, hollow eyes. I wanted to leave, to run as far as I could from that playground, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. The wind picked up, and the swing set behind me started to move faster, almost violently now, as if something invisible was pushing it. The sound of laughter echoed through the park, and it was no longer faint. It was clear, and it was no longer the sound of children. It was the sound of something wrong. Finally, I broke free from the paralysis that had taken over me and ran toward the exit. My heart raced as I heard the giggles following me. The swing set creaked louder with each step I took. I didn't look back, but I could feel the presence of whatever was out there, watching me, waiting for me to turn around. I didn't stop until I was back in the safety of my home. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but the feeling of being watched never went away. I don't go near that playground anymore, and to this day, I can still hear the distant sound of children's laughter at night. It's always faint, just on the edge of hearing, but I know it's there, and I know I'll never return to that place. Asterisk call to action asterisk. If you've had a creepy encounter like this, we'd love to hear from you. Send us your story, and who knows, it might be featured in one of our upcoming videos. Your story could send chills down someone else's spine. And the haunting of the abandoned playground asterisk. It was supposed to be a simple trip to an abandoned park, a place that had been closed for years after a tragic accident. What I didn't expect was to leave with an experience that would haunt me forever. Sometimes, some places are meant to be left untouched, and the abandoned playground was one of them. Asterisk credit asterisk. This story was sent by John D., who insists that what happened to him at the playground still gives him chills. As a child, I had heard stories about the old playground at the edge of town. It had been shut down after a series of accidents. Kids falling off the slides, injuries on a merry-go-round, and even a death or two. Eventually, the city decided it wasn't safe anymore and closed it down, leaving it to decay in silence. Years later, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to visit the forgotten park. I had grown up with the legends, but never thought there was any truth to them. I thought it would be a nice, quiet place to explore, taking pictures of the rusted playground equipment and the empty swings. The moment I arrived, I could feel the weight of the silence. The park was overgrown, the weeds growing taller than the benches. The trees surrounding it were thick with branches that blocked out most of the light. It was a place frozen in time, as though it had been abandoned for much longer than it actually had been. I took out my camera and started snapping pictures of the rusted swings, the broken slides, and the dilapidated merry-go-round. But as I wandered deeper into the park, I noticed something odd. The swings were moving, not just swaying in the wind, but they were gently rocking back and forth, almost as if someone had been there just moments ago. I walked over to the swings, my footsteps crunching on the dry leaves beneath me. I reached out to touch one of the chains, but just as I did, I heard a faint giggle. It was a child's laugh, light and carefree, but it was unmistakable. I froze in place, my heart racing. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice shaking. There was no answer, only the continued creaking of the swings. I turned to leave, but something caught my eye, a small figure standing at the edge of the jungle gym. At first, I thought it was a shadow or a trick of the light, but when I looked closer, I could see a child standing there, staring at me with wide, dark eyes. The child wore a ragged, old-fashioned dress, and their hair was disheveled, hanging in front of their face like a curtain. I stepped back, my breath quickening. The child didn't move. They just stood there, watching me, their gaze unnerving and cold. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. Something wasn't right. Before I could react, the giggling started again, but this time it was louder, closer. I turned around to find that the swings were now moving faster, almost as if something, or someone, was on them, rocking them violently. I ran toward the exit, my heart pounding in my chest. As I neared the gate, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. It was a soft, scuffling sound, like someone dragging their feet. I didn't dare turn around. When I finally reached the gate, I pushed it open and ran out of the park, not stopping until I was safely back at my car. My hands were trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still hear that faint giggling and feel the cold stare of the child from the playground. I'll never go back to that park again. Some places are better left undisturbed, and some things are better left unseen. Asterisk call to action asterisk. Have you ever had a strange or creepy experience at an abandoned place? Share your story with us, and it might be featured in one of our future videos. We're always looking for more spine-chilling tales from our viewers. And